Hello, everyone. My name is Gleb Tsipursky, and I'm the president of Intentional Insights, which is an organization that promotes rational thinking, emotional intelligence, and effective giving to a broad audience. And I'm here with Boris Yakubchik, who is an effective altruist, and he will tell us what it means to him to be a typical effective altruist, not one of the very dedicated effective altruists who we hear so much about in the media, but a typical ordinary member of the effective altruist movement. So I'll let Boris introduce himself and share what being a typical member of the effective altruist movement means to him. Please go ahead, Boris.
Thank you very much for having me. I think effective altruism is a movement of an intention to do something positive in the world and funneling it in a way that is going to be very effective. It's sort of as simple as that. And within the movement, there are outlets through which you could do this, kind of predefined ideas of what is a method that seems to be really, really helpful. So the method that I think is the most exciting to me is just earning some money and giving a fraction of it to charity. And when you see it from the perspective of, you're going to work for a purpose, part of it is, of course, to make sure you have a house and you have food. But beyond that, the money you earn, you spend for fun. And so when I go to work, one way to think of it is, well, I spend 10 hours of my time, 10% of my time working not to have fun for myself, but just to help others, to really make the world a better place. And so giving 10% to charity isn't really much of a sacrifice. It seems like it's not that big of a deal. And so once I earn the money, I give it to the charities that I think are the most effective, of course, informed by GiveWell. And at the moment, it's the Against Malaria Foundation. So I think there are many ways to be an effective altruist, but for me, giving 10% to charity that's kind of like a nice baseline. And then, of course, beyond that, I do spend some of my free time talking to people about this if I run into a conversation that relates to this. Or online, I will maybe share some stories from whatever news media I find that I think is related to this idea that maybe will get somebody to think about effective altruism or think about how to make the world a better place or help them reflect on how the world is at this time and that we're very, very lucky to be living in a certain way, whereas other people aren't as lucky and maybe we can do something about it.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing your perspective. And I hear you mentioning GiveWell and also 10%. So can you clarify a little bit for the viewers who might not know anything about the 10% or GiveWell, what those things are, why you chose 10%, and what you mean by guidance from GiveWell?
Sure. So GiveWell is an organization that started almost a decade ago now. And it was started by people who were interested in making sure that the money that they give to charity will do as much good as possible. The two people who started it were hedge fund managers who were very quantitative in their thinking. And when they started doing research about where to give, they realized that there was very little evidence about what makes a difference. And so they started looking outside of the regular charity recommendations. And they looked into research findings about what interventions work. And because it was taking so much time to do this research, they decided to quit their paid jobs to start an organization that would do this research full-time. By now they have, I think, as many as 20 full-time staff that are doing this research. Please check online to see how many they do. And they've been doing this for many, many years now. And so their recommendations really are going to be, I think, the best place to give your money to charity if you want to make a positive, the most positive the most positive impact you can have at this time. And then the 10% figure comes from an organization called Giving What We Can. It's an organization that started, I think, about 6 years ago now, originally at Oxford, and then it has spread to other countries through local chapters in universities and also just cities with people who want to spread this idea. And the idea, I think, is quite elegant and simple. If you give 10% of your income to charity, you can make a really big positive difference in the lives of others. And the difference that you can make is what inspires me to give that 10%. It's because of organizations like GiveWell, and Giving What We Can has done some of the research informed by GiveWell that the founder realized you can, with even $1, make a big difference. Sorry, I'm not as eloquent as I wish I was. But anyway, Giving What We Can is an organization of people who pledge to give at least 10% of their money to the most cost-effective charities that they can find. And I've been a Giving What We Can member for about 5 years now, very proud of it. And I do aim to give more than 10% once I'm more financially able to. But until then, I think that's a very nice baseline. And I think many, many people are able to do it if they just try a little bit.
All right, thank you. And so you've mentioned you've been a Giving What We Can member for 5 years, and you clearly know the history of Giving What We Can. So can you share a little bit more about your own history of engaging with the effective altruist movement and where and how you came to be where you are right now?
Yeah. So I would want to say, in many ways, I am, I think, a typical effective altruism, a person who's a typical effective altruist, but in some ways, I'm a little bit atypical. And one of the ways is that I got interested in these ideas very early on, even before effective altruism was a term that people agreed on using. I joined Giving What We Can when it started in my university, at Rutgers University in New Jersey. And back then, this was only the first year of Giving What We Can's existence. I was really passionate about this. We had Peter Singer come to our university to give a speech. He filled up the entire auditorium. We had to lock the doors to prevent fire code violations because we were well over capacity of 600 people. So I've been along with the Giving What We Can local chapter at Rutgers, and a year later I decided to become the president because the previous president was not able to continue, and he was graduating. Anyway, so I took over and I was a president of the local chapter, which meant I organized events, I encouraged students to come and talk about these ideas, to hear about these ideas. And after those 2 years, I've moved on to be a full-time math teacher. Currently, I'm a part-time math teacher, part-time IT help person. Anyway, so I'm doing my own thing now, working, and I'm just giving 10%. And so I'm less involved within the movement than I used to be, but I still, my heart is in it.
All right, thank you. And that sounds like you went from what some would describe as a dedicated member of the A movement to a more typical member of the A movement, not one who was as engaged. So right now from your college years. So can you share about what you imagine yourself doing in the future as a member of the EA movement?
Yeah, I really look forward to earning more, earning more money from my regular job, and then giving more. At this time, I am still working as a math teacher, and that's something that I really enjoy doing, and that's something that definitely pays enough that I am able to give 10% without any trouble. I do hope that in the future I will be able to find a more lucrative job. So I am considering learning programming, and then maybe several years down the line, I will become a professional programmer. Typical salaries are higher than for teachers, and also the highest salaries are significantly higher than they are for teachers. And that might be worth my time. And I also enjoy programming. So I hope that someday I'll be able to give 50% of my income to charity, and that would make me very, very happy.
That's wonderful. And I really wish very much that someday you'll be able to give 50% of your income to charity. And I think the way you phrased it as kind of, being happy about doing so is just such a joy. It's such a joy to see people being happy about it. I'm a member of Giving What We Can as well. And it really does feel great to give 10% to charity, or more than 10% of my income, as I currently do, since I'm helping found the Intentional Insights and giving a lot to that organization. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you, Boris. This was really great. And thank you for sharing your perspective. And I really appreciate you being taking the time to do this interview.
Thank you very much for having me, and hope I'll see you again.
Yep. And if you want to learn more about Intentional Insights, check out intentionalinsights.org. Till next time.